Okay, um, what's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Um, this was supposed to be a group video. It was supposed to be having other people on, other guests, other voices, other opinions. But just because of just because of some tech issues, I'm gonna have to fly solo tonight. As no doubt all of you have seen, as you can see on the screen, as no doubt all of you have seen, we have had yet another sure to be massive case of brutality by the police. It's not something easy, and it never gets easier. It doesn't matter how many cases of this that you find, or how many cases are brought up, or anything. It doesn't matter, what's happened. It doesn't matter how many new cases that we find. It never gets easier to watch. The world was no doubt shook by the death of George Floyd, understandably. And as was the world. There was protests all over the world. There was protests here in Ireland about racism in general and standing up in solidarity against racism. There is I thought about if I was going to show the video or not, and I kind of feel like I should. I kind of feel like it needs to be out there as much as it possibly can. Um, but here we go. I want to warn people ahead of time. This is graphic. This is harrowing. This is not easy to watch. Not easy. It's only, as you can see, it's only 20 seconds. So if you feel like you need to, then just skip forward 20 seconds, starting from now. It really, really does never get easier. Um, it, we've already seen it. We've already seen right-leaning accounts um, on YouTube, on Twitter. Um, some of them smaller, some of them big. I'm not going to name who they are. You can probably guess who they are. Um, but they're all saying the same types of things that they always say. Same stuff as, oh, he should have just listened to the police. Should have just listened to him. Should have cooperated. Should have done what they asked. He did. He did do what he was asked. And yet he died anyway. Sorry. That's a slip of the tongue. Freudian slip. Because that's what I'm used to saying in these situations, right? He was shot he was shot 7 times. 7 times in the back. And as somebody who has been an atheist since I was 16, and this is a little known fact, I'm actually getting the atheist anarchy symbol tattooed. One of my friends is an aspiring whatever. It's whatever. The fact that Jacob is still alive is a goddamn fucking miracle. It is a miracle, and I realize the irony in me of all people saying that, but that is a fucking miracle if there ever was one. um, there are so many more details to this case that I'm going to go over. I'm just going to lay out all of the details in full, and then we'll talk about my kind of takeaway or my reaction. So this is Jacob Blake, and there are his 4 children. He's 29 years old. That's who he is. On Sunday evening, Blake was our, and just by the way, I know that I'm going to butcher some of these words because I'm somewhat rarely, I actually did some prep for this video and I read this article beforehand and I tried to kind of say some of the place names and I'm probably going to butcher them, but it is what it is. On Sunday evening, Blake was on a Kenosha sheet, Kenosha, whatever, lined with apartment buildings. He was breaking up a fight between 2 women, said Benjamin Crump, an attorney hired by the family. When the police arrived responding to a domestic incident, police said, Rayshawn White was across the street when he said that he heard 2 women arguing when Blake arrived. He said he didn't know what started the altercation. White was filming the incident when Blake walked away toward the driver's side of his car and opened the door. In a video that has now been seen millions of times, more than 9 million views on Crump's Twitter feed alone, there is millions and millions more. Police are seen closely following Blake and shooting him 7 times in the back as he leans into the car. Blake did not have a weapon in his car, said Patrick Slavy Jr., who is a second attorney that is representing the family. This next sentence, this next bit of the article, as you guys can see on the screen right now. I alluded to earlier that the world was moved by George Floyd, and the world was angered, and the world was shocked into action. And I found the details that surrounded George Floyd's case extremely harrowing, as did most sensible, decent, rational human beings. But this next sentence, this extra little detail in this case, is so shocking to so many people for obvious reasons. But being in the position that I am in, that is one of having a degree in social care and in psychology, I know the lengths of intensive and brutal therapy that is going to be facing these 3 people. In the vehicle were his 3 sons, ages 3, 5, and 8. The amount of trauma, the amount of PTSD, the overwhelming and like shock, and almost probably thinking, even at that young age, probably thinking that they have just witnessed their father, their dad, being murdered right in front of their eyes, and they were helpless to do anything, by the people that everybody entrusts to protect and to serve. That is the most disturbing detail about this entire story. He had three sons, three children in the backseat of the car. Anytime that any of those kids hear a gunshot, if it's at an event, something that they're at, if it's in a movie, all of these, like any instance where they hear a gun, that can that can trigger the events that unfolded on Sunday night, Sunday evening. Um, it is not going to be easy for any of those kids. It's really, really not. The level of therapy that is needed is intense. Would be would be putting it lightly. Um, I'm just going to continue. Blake is now in a Milwaukee hospital where he has remained in intensive care. As of Tuesday afternoon, he was undergoing surgery. I saw on Twitter that I think it was a friend of the family tweeted that he is now in the ICU, and the surgery was a success. Blake has suffered multiple injuries, including a gunshot wound to the arm, damage to his kidney, liver, and spinal cord, said Slavy Jr. He had a bullet go through some or all of his spinal cord, at least one bullet. He has holes in his stomach. He had to have nearly his entire colon and small intestines removed, saying that the family will file a civil lawsuit against the police department over the shooting. Jacob Blake has been suffering from paralysis from the waist down, his father told CNN, and they weren't sure if his condition is permanent. Jacob Blake may never walk again. Just put that into perspective. He was doing what you could call a good Samaritan act, breaking up a fight that he had nothing to do with. And then as soon, there was a different report that I read that said that he was, from the other witnesses that were there that saw all of this happening, that he was happy, he was relieved when the police arrived, because he thought, you know what, I've done my job, I've broken it up for right now, the police are here now, they're gonna sort out the issue, it'll all be fine. They'll do their job, I've done mine, I can be on my way now. And as you saw in the video, he walked away. Look, for everybody that is using the classic, the tired, the repeated lines, he should have just followed police orders. He was posing a threat. The officer feared for their lives, etc., etc. Lines that we've all heard before, excuses that we have all heard before, and that we are all tired of. You can see in that video that Jacob is walking at a normal pace. He's not walking quickly to get to the door. He's walking just at a normal pace. Two officers behind him, one with a gun, almost at gunpoint, almost touching his body. It sort of looked in the video like Jacob almost didn't even know that the police were that close to him, because he was so nonchalantly walking towards the car, which, I mean, if you were in his position, I mean, you would, right? You've broken up a fight. The police, that's their job. They're there to do their job. You've done yours. You're going to walk away, right? You've got nothing to worry about, right? It's fine. You've done your good deed. So all is okay. Um, the sorry. He I'm I'm just thinking about his kids again. I'm so sorry. Um, the fact that he may never walk again, the fact that he may never be able to do the kind of normal day to day, the normal job that any parent would be able to do. Four fucking kids. Like, he's only 29. He's a young guy. He's a young man. And he's not out of danger yet. He's still in critical condition. Yeah, the surgery was as a success, but I mean, he took internal damage. Um, there are articles that'll say that he'll probably never be able to walk again. That's just I can't even deal with that. It's just, this is exactly. I did a debate on defund the police that's up on the channel as well. Literally only a couple of days ago. And this example is exactly what I am talking about. Defund them, strip away almost every single police officer that has had any sort of an accusation of misconduct or of whatever. Get rid of them. Rebuild the police force from the ground up. And one of the points of reforming the police that is being said and that I mentioned during that debate was body cams on all police officers and cannot turn them off under penalty of law. And lo and be fucking hold, a different article that I wrote, that I read, said that in that part of the state, the police officers are not required to wear body cams. So they didn't have any. So if it wasn't for this guy that was across the street that took a video, we might not even know. We might not know about it. If there was nobody there to video what had happened, none of us might not be talking about Jacob Blake. I know that an awful lot of people are kind of looking at it and thinking, hey, Rib, you're a pretty big leftist. Why are you going to CNN? CNN was the only article that I could find that did not include the officer's name. I'm not including the officer's name. And if I couldn't find an article that did, I would just skip over it. I wouldn't say it. I'm not going to say his name. His name doesn't it just doesn't it doesn't deserve to be said. It doesn't deserve to get the level of um to the level of notoriety that Jacobs does. I have said Jacob Blake's full name and I will continue to do so. Everybody needs to know this guy's name. I hope, I sincerely hope that Jacob pulls through. For one, well, for the obvious reasons, but one of the biggest ones is because, unfortunately, for people like George Floyd, there was Breonna Taylor a few years ago, we have to speak on their behalf. We have to never stop saying their name. We have to never forget what has happened. Never stop protesting. Never stop making your voice heard. Um, if he survives, he can be his own voice. And people will know about him. They will hear about him. I hope he takes this lawsuit, and I hope he takes them for every fucking cent that they have. They have potentially, if we're gonna go with not the worst case, but a pretty bad case scenario, that he survives, but he is bound to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. They have taken away a man's ability to walk, a man's ability to do his job, depending on what it was. Do most jobs, right? Most jobs. They have taken all of that away from him. And he deserves every possible good thing that could happen to him. Another of the right wing talking points that they're going to say, they have been by the way, they have been furiously Googling his name. They have been looking into his background. They've been looking into his social media. They've been looking into fucking everything to do with this guy. They've been looking into everything, and they've tried to pull up everything, and they've tried to say, just like they did with George Floyd, they were like, oh yeah, but he was a druggie, he was on drugs. Yeah, but okay, as I have asked this to people directly to them, and they've all given me the exact same answer. I have asked them, does that mean that he deserves to die? If you're on drugs, is that worthy? Is that deserving of the death sentence? And every single one of them say no. Because it's not. If you're on drugs and if you get into an altercation with the police, if the police come and talk to you and it kind of escalates, right? And it's because you're on drugs, that's not a death sentence. It might be a night in prison, at a stretch, but it's not a death sentence. And that's exactly what it has been. It is it was a death sentence for George Floyd, and apparently it's been a death sentence for Jacob, or well, it might be for Jacob as well. I hope he pulls through, man. I did an unofficial poll in work the last couple of days, and I asked people, have you heard about it? Have you heard about the details? Have you heard what happened? And they've all said yeah. They've all said that they heard about it and whatever, and that it was, it was grim, it was shocking, it was disturbing, it was, all of these adjectives, right? All of what most people are going to say. The one thing that strikes me, and that is so obvious, is that the blatant contradiction between Ireland and between the US. This would never happen here. It would never happen here. For a lot of reasons, mainly because our police don't have guns. Now, I realise that that's not attainable given the amount of guns and given how armed the populace in the US is. That's just not an option right now. But the populace here is not armed. And if they were armed, and if this video came out, they would not be put on administrative leave. They would not be, suspended with pay. they would be arrested. They would be in handcuffs. They would be in jail right now. This is not something. There was something else that was said. It was what is it that like there was an investigation done into the details, and it was going to take like 30 days or something like that. This does not need 30 days to be able to come up with the result, the of course results of this case. You he was shot 7 times in the back because he broke up a fight. That was his crime. He broke up a fight. There's been there's been too many of these cases. Been far too many. I don't know where it ends. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know what happens after this. The police, or we can agree or disagree on whether they should be defunded, but the police need to be reformed in a massive, massive, massive way. This cannot continue. How many more George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake? How many more? How many more before people go to sorry. How many more people have to die unjustly at the hands of the police because because of how many more of them have to die before people wake the fuck up and do something about it? This is ridiculously difficult to talk about. I will likely not stop thinking about those kids. 3, 5, and 8. I can't even imagine the level of intensive therapy that they're going to have to go through. I can't imagine the amount of help that they're going to need. If Jacob dies, like they're never going to trust police because they're supposed to be there to protect and serve, right? And yet they killed those kids' dad. If Jacob dies, they're never going to trust him, never. But conservatives and right-wing people, they're gonna they're gonna make sure that they take a drink of water so that their tongue is extra wet when they go to lick those boots, and they're going to make sure that they have all of their talking points lined up, all of their oh well, what if he just complied, or what if he just did this, or what if he just did that. They're always going to have them. They're going to be there. I'll never get used to hearing this. I'll never get used to seeing these types of videos because it just doesn't happen here. It just doesn't happen. It's so diametrically opposed to the worst case scenario that can happen here. Um, they're those kids. Their lives could be ruined. Their sense of um their sense of innocence, what it means to be a kid, to be carefree, to be just a kid, same as we all were. Not a care or a worry in the world. But again, it's because of the regularity. It's just, oh, it's another one. Oh well, it's Tuesday, so I mean, I suppose, yeah, I suppose I was definitely going to hear about it. Oh, what? The second one? Oh, well, it's Wednesday now, so yeah, I mean, we were kind of due one. Um, Sorry, I'm looking at the live chat right now. Um, how much of it do you attribute to the U.S.'s gun culture? What I mean is the police likely thought that he was going for a gun. Yeah. That was in one of the reports that they thought that he was going for a gun, but when attorneys that were hired by the police went to kind of search the vehicle and stuff, there was no gun found. It's sort of okay. So what I personally think happened right now, we this might be this is literally just another man's opinion because we don't know that this happened. What I think, because from the video that was shown, it looked like when he opened the door, he was kind of bending over, right? So what I think happened was the police, when they got there and when they said, um, when they broke up the fight, when he broke up the fight, they probably wanted like a statement or something like that, right? So they probably asked for like, they like might have asked him for his ID, right, or his and he said, I have my license in the car, whatever, right? And then he went over and went in to get it. That's what I personally think happened because it definitely looked like he was bending over. But I mean, he opens the glove box and oh, he has to have a gun in there. But I feared for my life, so I had to kill him. Because that's undoubtedly what was going through that cop's mind. That is literally like um the opposition of the Steven Crowder segment. You can't change my mind on that. You can't. That was his intention. He wanted to kill him. I don't care what anyone says. He wanted to kill him. There was no way. You don't shoot somebody 7 times if you don't intend on killing them. But I mean, like what I've heard from other people is, okay, well, I mean, like, what if you want, if you feared for your life, right? If you shot him once, that's still bad, and it's still once too many. But if you feared for your life, if you thought that somebody was going to attack you, if you shoot them and you can't see that they have a gun on them, if you shoot them once, they're instantly going to back down. Instantly. Fucking instantly. It's not it's it's something that like they're naturally just going to have their guard down. They're not going to be, whatever. Once is too much, and 7 is definitely too much. I can't believe he's alive. I genuinely cannot believe he's alive. This has become so normalized. It's literally just become another case. But whereas, with a lot of different things, like maybe like you would kind of recall maybe the details, like, but you might not be able to remember everything about it. Um, it's it's one of those things like we know George Floyd's name, we know Breonna Taylor's name, we know Jacob Blake's name. Their names will not die out, and I hope that they won't ever die out. There's been far too many of these cases, and they just need to stop. Defund or don't defund. That's an argument from a different day, but they need to be reformed in a massive, massive way. From the top down, need to be reformed. I said it in the debate. This is going to be one of the last things that I'm going to say on it. I said it in the debate. There was a clip a good few months ago. It was in England. It was 4 British policemen, and they were surrounding a guy who had a machete in his hand. British policemen do not have guns. They de-escalated that situation to such a degree that not only did all of the police stay uninjured, but the guy who had the machete lived. They arrested him, of course, but he lived. If that same scenario happened in the US, he would have been shot dead about 5 seconds after they arrived. This needs to end, man. I'm getting tired of covering these stories. I'm getting tired of hearing them, of reading them, of looking at the videos that go along with them. I'm just, everybody is getting tired of it. Shit needs to change. That's going to be it for this one, guys.